Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Devin. Devin is from Philadelphia in the USA. So let's see what Devin has to say. Enjoy the interview. Hello Devin, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, absolutely. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks so much. I like your picture behind you, amazing.
Well, thanks. This is our guest room.
Oh wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Devin, so how you been so far? How is your day? It's very early morning there, isn't it? What's the time now?
That's early for me. It's not early for most people. It's just before 10 o'clock.
Okay. Saturday morning.
Yes.
What are you drinking?
Coffee with Italian creamer.
Sounds exciting.
And one of these discontinued Starbucks mugs.
Devin, so just before we start the game, just tell me where you're from.
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. Where am I from? Well, I was born in upstate New York, raised in California, lived 20 years in the Pacific Northwest, still miss it today, and currently live in Philadelphia. I've been living here for, 8.5 years.
And what's the best part of living in Philadelphia so far?
Philadelphia, geez. Well, if you'd asked me a few years ago, it would have been just the work here. But thanks to my husband, I've met lots of great friends here. So now I say my friends that are here are the best thing about Philadelphia.
Right. So your family all back in New York, or they're in California, or they spread around?
All over the place. I mean, both sides of my family come from New York, so but they've gradually moved out of New York. There's very few of them left there now. Some are in North Carolina, some are in California, and one is still in the Pacific Northwest.
And your parents, where do your parents live?
My parents are passed away. Well, my birth mother, who I wasn't raised by, she passed away in 1990. And then my father passed away in 2013, and he was in Nevada. But my stepmother, who I'm still very close to, she's been in my life most of my life since I was 7. She still lives in Southern California.
Okay, and you have siblings as well?
I have 2 stepbrothers.
Right,
and that's it. Yeah.
Very good. And what do you do for living, Devin?
I am a flight attendant.
Tell me a little bit about it. What do you like the most?
You've already interviewed a flight attendant. Let's see. What do I like the most? Gosh. Well, this is my 4th time with the airline industry, so you'd think I'd give it up by now. But I come back because it's a very flexible job. I like the flexibility of the job. I did lots of jobs where I was at a desk, and while they were enjoyable and challenging, I didn't really like being stuck at a desk. I like moving around, being on my feet. And that's kind of what the flight attendant job allows you to do.
Since when I met you in London, when you came here in London a few weeks ago, it was like 2 weeks ago, more or less, or 3 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Since then, have you been flying at other parts in Europe as well or not?
No, because of COVID, our flying, especially out of Philadelphia, because it's a vacation market, is very limited. We're still flying to London and I think Dublin and Amsterdam, or that might have stopped already for this season. But no, it's very limited to Europe. So mostly I've been doing domestic flying up and down the East Coast, Florida a lot. Florida's always popular any time of year, so lots of Florida.
I see. Okay, Devin, so just before we start our journey within the Magic Box, I would like you to tell me something interesting about yourself.
Gosh, interesting about myself. Oh boy. I'm a very deep person.
Always been?
So I've been told, yes. Yes, so I've been told.
Very good. Right, so you're ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of views?
Let's go for it.
Amazing. So welcome to William and the Magic Box. friend, full of random fun questions. So I'm just gonna play a song now, just for us to move a little bit before the first question. Okay?
All right.
Let's do it. Okay, Devin, so through the game, if there is a question that you don't have an answer for, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay? All very friendly. First question for you is, what do you think people need to know about each other before they get married?
Oh, gosh. Well, again, if you'd asked me this question 20 years ago, my answer would have been different. Now I think the most important question you need to ask yourself before you get married is you need to look at the person and say, when all the sex is gone, will I still want to be living with this person for the rest of my life? I mean, really, you're looking for a best friend. So everything else fades except friendship and love. So if you can't look at someone in the eyes and imagine them as an old person and say, I want to live with that person, then I think there's going to be problems.
Yes, I believe when you give this big step of getting married, I think you need to be conscious that you are married to your best friend in the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I believe as well. And how long you've been in a relationship for?
Pete and I have known each other for probably about 7+ years, and we've been married for just over 4 years.
Wow. And so far, what's the most beautiful lesson you've learned from your husband?
Gosh, most beautiful lesson. I think to be patient. Yeah, definitely.
That's something you've learned with him through the years.
Yes.
Very good, very good. Next question, let's do it. Right, next question for you is, where do you want to be in 10 years time from now?
Boy, 10 years time. Well, I expect I'll still have the same job. Gosh, I just hope I'll be happy and still traveling the world. I mean, COVID's really limited things. I'm hoping that will be in the distant past. I'm hoping the world will be more at peace and I'll be able to travel to more places and visit more people and learn more things. I hope I continue to learn.
Do you think you're gonna be living in Philadelphia for a very long time?
I hope to live in Philadelphia until I retire. So 15, 20 years from now, I'm sure. I'm hoping. That can always change. But yeah, that's kind of what I foresee.
Good, very good. Next question. Let's do it. Devin, before the next question, when you think about New York, your hometown, and also California, what's the memories that comes to your mind, like genuine memories when you think about that?
Well, I wasn't born in New York City. I was born upstate New York. So there's a big difference there if you ask anybody. Totally different areas. Let's see. Upstate New York is cold. It's very cold generally, especially in the winter time. Let's see. I don't have a lot of memories from New York. I just have pictures of myself. I have a few memories from New York when I was a child. I only lived there for a year and a half. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about it. Lots of pictures of me in the snow. And I used to go back there and visit my grandparents, of course, and my mother was still living there, so I would visit her. Yeah, that's about it. California, lots of memories from California. I mean, I was there from the time I was 1.5 until I was, 21 years old. So I was raised in the Los Angeles area. So let me see, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is, gosh, it's similar to New York, but all spread out. I mean, it's massive. It's like it could be its own state by itself, that whole area. So it was kind of a live and let live kind of environment, I think. You do your thing, I do my thing, we're all happy. I think that's still a similar thing. So I used to ride my bicycle everywhere in Los Angeles as a kid. I mean, there was no limit to where I would go on my bike, or even walking, which would seem absurd today. But everything in California requires a car usually because everything is so far away. And that's really the only bad memory I have of LA is having to drive everywhere. So I don't miss that part of it.
And what's the best part, the most challenging part of living in Philadelphia?
Most challenging part. I would think, I mean, because I'm a West Coast guy, the West Coast of the US is very, it can get very hot in the summer on the West Coast, but generally it's very dry on the West Coast, where Philadelphia and most of the East Coast gets very humid, and I'm not a humid heat kind of person. I don't really enjoy tropical weather, and in Philadelphia it's very hot and sticky. I don't mind the winter and the snow as much, that's fine to me, but in the summer it's very difficult for me.
Good, all right. Next question for you is, what do you think is a good age to start dating and why?
A good age to start dating? Gosh, well, I didn't start dating until I was 18, but I would think for something that's non-sexual, probably, maybe 14 or 15, maybe. I don't know. I don't have any children, so my first sexual encounter, I was 14, so. But that wasn't really dating. Yeah, I think just exploring, 14, 15 maybe, if you're, you know, interested in your classmates or your friends or something. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Very good. Yeah, I believe as well. I think during this age, you know, if you feel safe, you feel kind of okay, you know what I mean? Safe about going on a date, why not?
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay.
Let's do it. When you come to London, what's the best part of being London, in your opinion?
Gosh, well, London is one of my favorite cities in the whole world. There's very few places that are like London. What I love about London is that it's very international, but still also very British.
Yeah.
So London is like New York, but a little more classy in a way, I think, in my opinion. Much more historic. So yeah, I mean, I love walking down the street, you know, in London and hearing all these different languages. You know, it really is an international city. And it's a very liberal city. Of course, it's also a business-oriented city. Mm-hmm. But you feel like when you're there, you really are in one of the centers of the world. And I love that feeling.
Very good. Next question for you is, what have you learned during this COVID crisis since the world went upside down for the last few months?
A few years.
I mean, it's been 2 years already, you know what I mean, since then. Hopefully
yeah.
You know, go further.
Well, I'm a firm believer that you don't see people's true character until they meet a crisis in their life. And COVID is a worldwide crisis, and it's bringing out people's true personalities. So I think for most of the world, I think humanity has proven itself to be capable and up for the challenge, and that is a very good thing for our future. But I think there's a large minority of people that have shown themselves to be very selfish and uncaring and willing to really destroy humanity in favor of a decision that's not really theirs to make. It's a decision that affects everybody. So it's kind of where you get into the idea of personal rights versus communal rights. And when I was brought up, I was taught this idea that your personal liberties only go as far as the tip of your nose.
Yeah.
So, and once your personal liberties start interfering with someone else's personal liberties, that's where they stop. So that's how I was brought up. And so if someone wants to choose, let's talk about vaccination or mask wearing, if someone wants to choose not to do these things, that's okay if you're the only person in that equation. Once you start including other people in society, especially more vulnerable people, then that starts taking on a darker quality. So I think a large minority of people have made a conscious decision to behave very poorly, and it's caused me to lose a little bit of faith in humanity as a whole. So it's kind of shocking, actually. And I'm such an admirer of Europe in general. You know, the French and the English and all of the different institutions there, and the mindset, the pragmatic mindset of Europe. And I think that's still there, but I've realized that there are just as many crazy people there as there are here, with all the protests. So, and maybe that's because of the internet. But I think that this mistrust in experts that normally, you know, people would listen to. You know, if someone was going in for cancer treatments and they said, these are your options, you wouldn't typically say, oh, no, I'm not having any of those. Of course, you would take whatever option you had, right? Because you want to live. So these people don't consider that. And I think that's to put yourself in that kind of position to resist those things defiantly is a mark of privilege, I think. To kind of say, oh, I don't need that. Well, obviously, you've never experienced any sort of crisis in your life. You're creating a crisis.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
You know, if you really, truly had experienced some sort of crisis or had someone in your life that experienced a crisis that was vulnerable, you might be more aware of the seriousness of what's going on. So I think there's a certain amount of privilege there. So while I think the majority of humanity has reacted positively, and I think we'll get through this, I think the large minority of people are still a danger, and I'm not sure what the solution to that is. I don't know.
And what's the situation right now in Philadelphia regarding the COVID situation?
Well, we have a large number of our population is vaccinated. I think it's over 70% now. I don't know the exact number. So that's good. I mean, depending on who you talk to, the magic number of vaccinations is either 70 or 85%. So, you know, I just kind of try to listen to what the experts have to say. But as far as people wearing masks, people are wearing masks on public transit for the most part, which is required here. People are generally wearing masks, you know, when they enter into a restaurant, at least before they sit down, which is required here. For all of our bars, much like London, you show proof of vaccination and then you can go in without your mask. And that's not 100% guarantee, but I feel more comfortable about that because at least I know that, you know, people are vaccinated to a certain extent. And if anyone is going to get sick, it's going to be usually to a lesser extent. So, but as far as business is concerned here, most businesses are open again. Mm-hmm. I've seen an increased security around the city as far as people hiring security.
Wow.
Sometimes they monitor mask wearing and sometimes they don't. So the other issue that I have with COVID is that the mask requirements put the pressure on the customer service person to enforce this rule, and this person's not being paid much. So just like me as a flight attendant, although I'm now being paid more than I was, I wasn't hired to enforce a mask mandate. I was hired to, enforce and ensure safety. That is a part of safety. So I'm doing that. But in cases like Starbucks or a restaurant or a grocery store or even a gym, right? I go to the gym regularly. They put that onus on the low-paid workers at the front desk to enforce that policy, and sometimes it doesn't get enforced.
Yep.
And so again, that's where the selfishness comes into effect, right? You have someone that's going to the gym that's not wearing their mask, and they feel like they're making a political statement by not wearing a mask. And the sign on the door says, whether or not you've been vaccinated, the Philadelphia ordinance says you must wear a mask indoors in the gym, and they're not wearing a mask. Well, first off, they're breaking the rule. Second, I don't know if they've been vaccinated or not. The gym's not checking if they've been vaccinated. So, and then it also puts the pressure on that person working at the front desk to check them. And then what's the person at the front desk going to do?
Yeah.
Do they want that conflict? So it's a very difficult situation that the selfish people are putting people in. And it's kind of a way of bullying and intimidating. And I just think it's unnecessary. So that's just me.
There are a lot of things involved, as you said. It's about the political thing as well, you know what I mean? So there are so many things involved, but at the end of the day, it's not about protecting yourself, about protecting others. You know what I mean? That's what it's about.
Yeah. What's interesting is that in my flying, I go to a lot of what would be called third world countries, but now we call them developing countries. And in every single one of them, everyone is wearing a mask.
Wow.
Everyone.
Amazing.
So, and then you go to a Western country and you have these privileged people saying, oh, I don't have to wear a mask. That's an infringement on my rights. You know what I mean? And here you have these people that are earning far less money and have far less than we have, and they're doing what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a statement in and of itself. Yeah. So it's not because they've been brainwashed into making this decision. They're making the decision because they care about their community, because their community is of value to them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Good point. That's another question. Ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it, Devin. Okay, next question for you is, what 3 things do you want to be remembered for?
3 things. Wow. Passion. My passion for things, for life. Sincerity. And just having a good moral compass, I think. Being a just person to myself and to others.
Very good. Good point. Next question?
Yeah.
Let's do it. For the next question, Devin, tell me, let's say a challenge situation that you had during your career as a flight attendant, like a challenge or something that's, a challenge moment that you had, a crazy moment, situation.
Gosh. Wow. There's so many. Let's think. Oh, yes. So I flew for a regional airline. And I always admire people that fly for regional airlines. Because when if you don't work for the airline industry, you don't really know. But if you fly a lot, you definitely would know. Regional airlines fly a lot of flights a day. Lots of takeoffs, lots of landings. And the hardest part of a flight attendant job is boarding and deplanement. Always the hardest part. The service is easy. you could do that on automatic pilot. It's not difficult. Boarding, getting everyone seated, etc., etc. So when you have lots of legs, it's very challenging. And at regional airlines, you could fly, 8 flights a day. Usually short flights, but lots of ups and downs, lots of boarding to planning. And I remember it's one of my last flights at this regional airline. Just 2 flight attendants, 76 passengers. We were in Los Angeles. We were going to fly to Sun Valley, Idaho, which is a very posh, it's a little British term, posh ski resort.
Okay.
And I had never been there before, but I'd heard about it. And the boarding area was filled with very posh people. Unusual to be flying a regional airline, but who else is flying to Sun Valley direct, right? Usually you have to drive or take a private plane or something. So, and that's a pretty long flight for us. It's about a 2.5-hour flight. And the flight attendant and I were looking at each other, and we were kind of nervous about these passengers, right? We're just a regional airline. And there was a blizzard going through Sun Valley. And they do what's called weather warning passengers. When they give you a weather warning, it means the plane may not be able to land. And if it doesn't land, it's going to go someplace else, and you're going to be stuck there, right? You have to find your own way. So they give passengers a chance to not continue on their journey. So they were weather warned, and we were getting very nervous. Like, oh God, we're going to be dealing with these uppity people and, dealing with the situation. So we got off in the air, and of course, nothing we did was going to satisfy these people. We're a regional airline, so there's no first class. And we ended up trying to get into Sun Valley, 3 missed approaches. We ended up having to turn back and go to Boise, which is just, 25 minutes further along the flight, but it's like about 100 miles or so south, I think, of Sun Valley. We land there, it's after midnight. And the company did not have to do this, but the company arranged to have buses come pick these people up and take them to Sun Valley because, of course, they were
rich.
Right. And so the Boise airport was essentially closed, right? All the businesses were closed. There's not much there. And this lady is getting off the plane, and she's clutching her pearls, and she's just like, oh, well, I hope we'll be treated to champagne while we wait. And I said, ma'am, there are many wonderful establishments in the Boise airport. Of course, they were all closed.
Really?
Yes, really.
Oh my God, that's very interesting. Oh my God, people worry about so many things. Is she gonna worry about a glass of champagne? Really?
Right. We were just happy to safely land. I mean, that was it.
Oh my lords. Next question for you is, what would be the title of your memoir?
Memoir. Phoenix. Rise of the Phoenix.
Wow. And why is that?
Gosh. You say you don't look at profiles very much, but I am a AIDS and stage 4 cancer survivor. I was diagnosed when I was 26. I had not been tested ever. Like, I refused to ever be tested for HIV. I associate HIV with death. So I figured I'm not ready to die, so I'm not going to be tested. And I kind of lived in that little shell for quite a long time of denial. And that summer I started having pains, like in my back. I didn't really associate with what it was. And I had a month trip to Paris and France and had a great time. And the pain just kept coming and going, getting worse and worse. And it was like back spasms. And I had eventually gone, my friend had been trying to talk me to get tested. And I just decided on a whim to get tested. And I said, let's go get tested. It was Tuesday night testing or something or other. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, let's just get over with. So I did, and found out I was positive, and the guy was expecting me to break down or something, and he's like, "Oh, is this like your second test?" And I said, "No, I just figured at this point that I would be positive, so it's not really a surprise to me." So he gave me the information I needed to follow up. Well, I went back to work, and this pain that I was having increased more and more. And less than a week later, I was at work and ended up calling a friend of mine saying, "I have to go to the emergency room." And she took me to the emergency room, and 24 hours later, they found out that I had the highest viral load ever detected in a living person. I had a 2.1 million viral load. My T cells were 16, so I guess I had some. The minimum is 200 for AIDS. Normal in a human being is between 500 and 1500. I had lymphoma in my liver, my spleen, along my spinal column. I have four compressed vertebrae. So the next day they had checked me into a hospital, and they basically said, and of course this was in '96, and the new medications had come out in '94. My very first boyfriend had died of AIDS in '90. And so there was hope for sure, but there wasn't any long-term prognosis. Like, they didn't know whether or not long-term these medications were going to work. And then, of course, there was the cancer, the stage 4 cancer on top of that. And the doctor basically said, "Look, you've got 2 months to 2 years to live. That's it.
Oh, wow.
You have 2 months. 2 months, the chemo will kill you." Or, because it destroys everything. Chemo destroys everything in your system, right? It's a poison, basically. It kills the cancer, but it also kills, your immune system, whatever's left of it. And if you survive that, then I give you 2 years tops. And I kind of heard this information, 26 years old. I was in the middle of college, right?
Oh.
And so I heard this information, and it kind of went in one ear and out the other. And it wasn't that it didn't register, it's just that I didn't believe it was my time yet. So, and after that, I had a social worker come and meet me, and she wanted to get me into a hospice care, right? End of life care, which is what they would do, right? When someone was diagnosed with such serious AIDS and cancer, they put you in the hospice and you're going to die.
Wow.
And I just looked at her, and after she said what she said, and I just very abruptly said, "No, screw you. I'm not doing that." She was like shocked. And it wasn't that I had any sort of knowledge of, where I was going. I had no idea, what my path was before me. I just knew that I had to get through this. So, so they started me on chemo. I think they wanted to do radiation, but I voted down radiation because there was going to be long-term potential damage from that. So I did the chemo. After a week, they got me out of the hospital. The college I went to was great. I was living on campus. They let me cut my hours down and still live on campus. Did that. But I was still taking classes on chemotherapy.
Wow.
I mean, I had a back brace, I had a walker, I had a thing in my arm to put the chemo in every other week. And I was still going to classes. And everyone was saying, "Why are you going to classes?" Because that's what I'm doing. So I think in the moment that became for me, I kind of call my university, I call it my monastery. It was my place of healing. It was my place to find myself and to focus myself on what the future was. Because why else would you go to college? Except for the future, right? So, and I remember at the time I was going to group counseling at the time. There were lots of other HIV positive people. Some people had full-blown AIDS like me. It was called the Strong Feelings Group, which is kind of ironic. And all of them were on disability. I was on disability at the time because I couldn't really work very well. I ended up getting on health insurance because of my disability, which was good. And I was going to this group, and they were all complaining. All they were doing was complaining all the time. My life is terrible. I'm on disability, and what's going to happen now? And of course, again, you have to remember this was still at the beginning of the medications. People didn't really know what was going to happen, and it come over to me, and I'm like, well, I'm taking classes. I'm taking French. I'm taking history. They're like, why are you going to that? You're just going to be dead. And I'm like, well, I don't really see that. I'm just going to keep doing it. So, and I remember toward the end of my 6 months of chemo, the cancer was gone.
Wow.
My immune system was shot. They were putting me on different HIV medications, but they didn't really know what was working because I had to get off the chemo first. And I realized that I had to face what really was my greatest fear at that point, which what I call my second facing of death, which was I was becoming more and more depressed from the chemo, because chemo depresses you a great deal. And I just kind of said, I don't know that I can live with the stigma of being HIV positive. At that time, there was so much stigma, and there still is, but then it was really bad. I didn't know that I could live with that. And so I contemplated suicide. I seriously did. And I talked to my counselor about it, and she goes, well, you need to talk to the group. You need to talk to the group about this. And I had saved up all these sleeping pills. I mean, I was going to do it. I was literally 24 hours away from doing it. And I brought it up to the group. And instead of, embracing me and loving me, they kind of said, well, why would you think about that? That's crazy. What are you talking about? And they just totally rejected me. And it was kind of the opposite of what I was expecting, right? And it really made me angry, and I never went back to that group again. And that night I thought about it, and something inside of me just made me not do it. And probably because I was pissed off. But looking back on it, I realized that I tend to be a very decisive person. And what that group was it wasn't living and it wasn't dying. It was just existing.
Wow.
And for me, that wasn't enough to just survive. I needed to thrive. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I turned things around. And it took a while from that to grow, but I think I really transformed out of that experience.
Wow. Devin, thank you so much for sharing that. My God, what a story. Oh my God. I just hope this doctor that you had gave this, this 2 years and 2 months of final life. I hope he's watching this interview at the moment to see how, how life can be very interesting. Let's put it this way, interesting. To sometimes we, my God, it's just amazing. It's just a beautiful, this story. Thanks so much for sharing. My God, did you ever had a conversation with this doctor afterwards, open conversation?
No, well, I don't want to trounce the medical profession because I am a true believer in science.
No, of course.
I think, doctors and nurses and scientists go on things based on evidence, and the current evidence that he had was that my prognosis wasn't good. But evidence also should be counterbalanced with hope.
Absolutely. That's sort of my point.
Yeah. And I've had many excellent doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners we have here in the US, which are kind of like doctors, that have been great allies to me. So no, I never met with him again. But once I became clear of cancer and off chemotherapy, I started seeing a wonderful nurse practitioner. And once she realized that I wanted to start going to the gym and that I wanted to start looking after myself, she was immediately a complete and total ally and partner in what I wanted to do. Wow. So whenever I meet with someone that is my medical provider, I'm always looking first for an ally. because I count my recovery on science, stubbornness, and hope.
Beautiful. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. Oh my God, I'm so glad that this question came along and you went through this this journey. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people watching this, they're gonna identify themselves with yourself, not I mean, with yourself as well. I think it's just beautiful, amazing. And thanks for sharing this personal event in your life. Thank you.
Thank you.
2 questions left for you, okay? Right, next one. Let's do it. I wish that when I met you in London a few weeks ago, I just wish that we could talk about that. I would explore so much about the situation.
Next time.
It meant to happen today. Next time when you come, be ready. We're gonna go through a long conversation.
It's not a conversation that comes up in bars. I'm sorry to say.
Right, next question for you is, share with us a crazy story that happened to you when you were at school. Crazy or funny?
Crazy story when I came up with school, oh gosh. Well, there was a funny story. One of my favorite stories from high school. I was into theater in high school. Surprise! And when I was a senior in high school, I was the president of the Thespians and the
wow.
Club, and one of the big actors. Of course, who was going to win the Best Actor award? Of course, it was going to be me. 'Cause it's a big popularity contest. And me and my acting friends were doing this 1-act play in front of the drama class, and of course, there were high expectations for us.
Of course.
Very. And we were at this high school. We were very, very fortunate to have we had the smallest high school in the district of about 1,500 students, I think. But we were the only high school in the district that actually had a real theater.
Wow.
300-seat or 250-seat live theater with everything that you can imagine. It was built prior to the high school, and then the high school was built on top of it. And so we prepared this 1-act play, and most of the time practicing, we just bullshit. We weren't studying lines or anything. We were like, nah, we got this. We're great. We're fine. And we started our very first performance, and almost immediately we were off the script. We were ad-libbing like crazy, and I could just hear our drama teacher in the back row in the darkness going, and finally I just stopped and I looked at him and I said, if we keep going like this, we're going to be in Disneyland. And he looked at me and he goes, exactly. I'll see you next week. So we got off the stage, tail between our legs. Next week came, we hadn't studied a bit. And we're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Oh, we got a ditch. It's the last class of the day. We can just leave. But he knew this, right? So he took roll twice. He took roll at the end of class 2. But we knew that our drama teacher was forgetful. So out of sight, out of mind. So we went into the theater and we hid, and we laid head to toe behind our own seats after we took roll, and then we just show up at the end of class, and we were just like giggling, and the door opened and we saw his feet and we heard him sigh, and then we saw him go back, the door slammed, and then we showed up at the end of class and we took roll, and I don't remember if we ever did that 1-act or not, but we got A's. So, yeah. Sometimes being too cocky can get you in trouble.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. My goodness. Okay, Devin, ready for the last question?
Yes, yes.
Let's do it. Okay, Devin, just before the last question, what would be your best piece of advice for someone who would like to start a career as a flight attendant? What's the best part of it? What's the most challenging part? What would be your best piece of advice?
Well, if you want to start a career as a flight attendant, first off, it is one of the most difficult jobs to get ever. It's a very selective process, and on top of that, it relies on someone's impression of you. So, like any other job, but more so, because they not only have to rely, the interviewer not only has to rely on their own impression of you, but also whatever the corporation is expecting of them, right? So when I tell people to apply for a position, expect the process to last a long time. Months.
Wow.
When I tell people, like, if there's 1,000 jobs available, flight attendant positions available, there will be 100,000 people applying for that job.
Wow.
And I tell people now, in the 21st century, because so many people apply, a living human being will not be the first person to see your resume. It's going to be a computer.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be scanned, and they're going to look for keywords. So you want to put keywords in your resume that exactly reflect what are on the job application. If it says teamwork, you put teamwork. If it says 5 years customer service, you put 5 years customer service. Whatever is in there, and at first I thought that was stupid. But until I started doing that, I didn't start getting calls. So the other thing is when you go to the interview, when you actually are awarded a chance to go to have a one-on-one interview, they're going to tell you, be yourself. That's not true. The response is, the thing you should do is be your best self.
Wow.
Because that's who you're going to be when you're on the job as a flight attendant, is to be your best self. And when they ask you, tell me about a time when you did such and such, such and such, they want a specific time. They don't want something general. So, and they want to have a positive spin on it. So, you know, they don't want you to give an excuse about it, because as a flight attendant, your job is to resolve problems. When that door closes, you're it. You're resolving problems. And you have any kind of passenger on board the aircraft, from people that are very, very well educated and maybe famous to people that are not so well educated and not so famous, and all sorts of different problems. And when you close the door, it's all about them. It's not all about you. I mean, it might be, of course it is, but you have to be able to adapt to those people and present your best self. And even if you're having a bad day. So I think that's the best advice. And for training, my God, training is usually 6 weeks unpaid. So you have to be prepared for that. And I think a lot of flight attendants are not prepared for that. And you're tested almost every single day. And if you don't pass by like 90%, you're out.
Wow.
So it takes seriousness, punctuality. You have to be on time, obviously. You have to study all the time, almost obsessively.
Wow.
Hang out with people that study all the time. I think a lot of people think being a flight attendant is about partying. Yes, you can have partying after you've done all the serious stuff. You can do that, but only after that. Because when you're in training, you're essentially still in the interview.
Wow, of course. Wow.
It's still the interview. And then 6 months after that, we're on probation. You're still being interviewed for 6 months. So the process still continues. And I think that takes a lot of endurance. And a lot of people don't realize that. But the most successful ones do. So, and then long term, my advice to people is the same as life. Being a successful flight attendant is always try to see the good and always find things that you're thankful for. Because when things really get bad, you're going to need those things to help lift you up.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, last question for you is, what is the weirdest dream you ever had?
Gosh. Well, I had a dream when I was a teenager a lot. Very weird dream, and it kept happening over and over again. And I was sword fighting this pirate. And maybe it was a premonition or something, but not that I'd be sword fighting a pirate, but I would always lose. The pirate would always stab me, and then he'd remove the sword, and I would feel the pain, and I would look down, and the wound would heal.
Wow.
And then we'd keep fighting, and then I'd lose again, and he'd stab me again, and it kept going over and over and over again. So I think that's really just about endurance.
And what's the when you think about what is the message behind when you think about it?
Just to never give up.
Yeah.
To never give up.
Things gonna go down, but it's gonna heal sometimes. Somehow.
You can never give up. And no matter how bad things get, even if you lose something, you're not defeated.
We are winning anyway. Losing is winning as well.
Right. There's always something to learn.
Absolutely. Okay, Devin, it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game, okay? I'm going to give away some words. Just tell me one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking. Let's start with fear. One word.
Fear. Conquerable.
Religion.
Complicated.
Politics.
Complicated.
How about life?
Wonderful.
Complicated.
Wonderful.
How about family?
Family. Friends.
Love.
Life.
Money.
Necessary.
Sex.
Sex.
Yeah, sex.
Sensuality.
Friendship.
Necessary.
Desire.
Desires. Temptation.
Ooh. Regrets.
Learning.
Success.
Striving.
Wish.
Focus.
Happiness.
Attitude.
One word for Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Philly. I love Philly.
Yeah, Philly. Philly is historic.
One word for USA.
USA. Contradictory.
And the last one now, flight attendant.
Flight attendant. Ambassador.
Amazing. Let's pretend now I'm going to meet your lovely husband for a coffee, and I'm going to ask him, define Devin in one positive word and one negative word only. What do you think he'll define yourself?
Well, the negative's very easy. Messy. I'm not a slob. I've gotten much better with him and also with my own maturity. Messy, yes. Positive. Driven.
Good, very good. Okay, let's play now Devin and the magic box, and you can ask me a question. So you can ask me a question now.
Question. Yes, I've seen several of your videos. I don't know if this has been asked yet. what brought you to the UK?
Okay, let's book another hour to talk about it.
Well, good. I'm hoping, has anyone asked you that before?
No, yes, kind of. They asked me how I come to the UK. So one of the main reasons, Devin, about coming to the UK is about the language, English. I've always been very passionate about the language since when I started studying English, I was 12 years old. And since then, I fell in love with the language. So that's one of the main things about it. I always dreamed of living in a country where the main language was English, the mother language. Of course, back in Brazil when I was 19, when I left Brazil, we have this American dream. Brazilian people have this American dream to go to USA. Long story short, I had the opportunity to go to Portugal. I didn't think twice. I just said, okay, I was 19. I said, okay, let me go to Portugal. And of course, in Portugal, in Europe, I could go to Ireland, to London, so I could speak English every day. So yeah, the main reason I'm here is the fact that I want to be able to speak English every day. And I always had this personality of, get a better life and go after my dreams and to help my family. So I always had this driven thing of, be a better person spiritually and just growing up. And but the main reason was about the language. I always dreamed of speaking English every day, and here I am, 16 years now, almost 17. Be a long time.
Yeah. I think it'd be wonderful to live in London.
Devin, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy the interview?
I had a very good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure seeing you again. I think it's nice. When we were talking about your life story, I was just thinking to myself, my God, sometimes you meet people like in an evening, a few hours, and you have no idea, like so much story this person has, so much story, and to connect with you right now. You back in Philadelphia. I just feel like I want to talk to you like for another. I can't wait for you to come to London again, because I think it's so nice to hear stories. I think all of us, we have so much to share, and sometimes when you meet people, you of course have a good time, have a good time talking, but sometimes when you meet them again in another opportunity, that's where you can go and see more about this person. And actually talking to you today, I just see you more than before, and I feel more connected with you. And actually, I can't wait to see you again to to carry on. I think I strongly believe that people meet each other for a reason, and I'm so glad that our paths crossed, and we had the opportunity to talk again, and in this beautiful project, and I could see more of you. And thanks for sharing so beautiful things and challenge things in your life. I think that's what life's about. Just sharing stories for people to connect with us. And I think we go through a lot of, dark moments and beautiful moments as well. And life is about that. Just living every single day how it comes. That's what I believe.
I always say to people, life is about learning.
Yeah.
That is your sole purpose for being alive, is to learn.
Absolutely.
If you're not learning, you're not living. So it's always about learning. You don't have to go to college. It's always about learning, expanding your knowledge, meeting other people, experiencing new things. It's about expanding your horizons.
I was about to ask you to share a positive message, but you just did.
Sorry.
No, that's a beautiful message. I think I totally agree, and I think we're gonna be learning until the last day of our lives. I think that's what life's about. If you are clever enough, just learn every single day. I think that's what it's about. Thanks so much. Regards to your husband, and see you soon in London, okay? See you soon.
All right. See you soon.
Take care, Devin. Thanks so much for the interview.
Sure Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye, see you next time.